When owners go looking for business support, they almost always start in the same unhelpful place by asking what grants are available. It is a natural question and it produces a mess because the honest answer is a long list of programs with different purposes, most of which have nothing to do with you, and you end up reading about things you will never use while missing the one that fits. There is a better first question, and it is about you rather than the list. Where is my business right now? A company finding its feet, a company straining at the seams, and a company that has been running smoothly for years are three completely different businesses with three completely different needs, and support is designed around needs. So in the next few minutes, we are going to walk through the stages, starting, growing, and maturing, and what genuinely changes at each, so you can search the landscape like someone who knows what they are looking for. One important note before we begin. This channel is educational only. We are not a government agency. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by Go Business Enterprise Singapore or any government body, and nothing here is official advice. We are giving you a lens, not a list, and we are deliberately naming no schemes and no criteria because those differ and change over time. So we will always point you back to the official source, gobusiness.gov.sg, to see what actually exists for your situation before you rely on any of it. Why stage is the right lens? Support exists because certain things are worth encouraging. And what is worth encouraging depends entirely on where a business is. Helping a new business establish itself, helping a capable business grow beyond its current ceiling, and helping an established business modernize are three different aims, and the landscape of support tends to reflect that. Which means your stage is not a label, it is a filter, and it is the most efficient one you have. Owners who skip this step wade through everything, grow overwhelmed, and conclude that grants are confusing. They are not confusing, they are simply not all for you, and stage is what tells you which part is. Start with where you are, and the list shrinks to something human-sized. What a stage actually means. It is worth defining this carefully, because the word stage sounds vaguer than it is. A stage is not your age and is not your revenue, it is the kind of problem that currently limits you. In the starting stage, the limiting problem is existence, proving that there is a real business here, that people will pay, that the thing works. In the growing stage, the limiting problem is capacity. The model works, but you cannot serve more of it without something breaking. In the maturing stage, the limiting problem is relevance and efficiency. The business runs and the risk is drifting rather than collapsing. Notice these are questions, not sizes. Two businesses of identical size can be in different stages, and the same business can slip backwards into an earlier one when it launches something new. Identify the problem that limits you, and you have identified your stage. The starting stage, early on, everything is unproven and everything is scarce, and the honest description of this stage is that you are still finding out whether you have a business. What you need is rarely something grand. It is the basics of setting yourself up properly, getting the fundamentals right, learning quickly, and reaching your first customers without spending money you cannot spare. The support landscape in Singapore does contain things aimed at businesses in this position, and the way to find them is to go to the official portal and look at what is offered to businesses at the beginning rather than to search for a name you heard somewhere. The useful mindset here is that anything which shortens the distance to a paying customer is worth more than anything which makes you look established. At this stage, proof beats polish, and support is most valuable when it buys you proof faster. The specific danger early on is that support is more available than judgment, and it can pull you into building things you have not earned yet. New owners are the most likely to chase help simply because it exists, and the least able to afford the time it takes. Every hour you spend on an application is an hour not spent finding out whether anyone wants what you sell. And that discovery is the only thing that matters at this stage. So the test is sharper here than anywhere else. Would this project help me prove the business faster? Or does it just feel like progress? Be especially wary of investing in systems, tools, and infrastructure for a scale you do not have yet, because a supported version of something premature is still premature. Early on, the cheapest thing you can do is find out you were wrong quickly and no grant does that for you. The growing stage, growth changes the question completely. Now the model works, customers exist, demand is real, and the pain has moved. You are no longer asking whether this works. You are asking why it will not go faster. And the answer is usually a bottleneck somewhere, capacity you do not have, processes that were fine for a smaller version of you, people you need but cannot yet reach, or markets you can see but cannot serve. This is the stage where support tends to be most useful, because you have something proven and the constraint is real and identifiable. The strength of your position here is that you can point at exactly what is limiting you and describe what would change if it were fixed, which is precisely the kind of project that support exists to encourage. Go to the official source and look at what is aimed at businesses trying to expand, and read it with your bottleneck in mind, what to watch for when growing. The classic mistake at this stage is scaling something that should have been fixed first. Growth exposes weaknesses rather than hiding them, and pouring capacity into a broken process gives you a faster broken process and a bigger mess to untangle later. So before you use support to do more of something, ask honestly whether the something is worth doing more of, or whether the real project is to fix it. The other growth trap is doing everything at once, because when the constraints are obvious, it is tempting to attack all of them. And a business in the middle of 4 simultaneous projects is not growing, it is thrashing. Pick the one bottleneck that, if it moved, would unlock the most, and do that properly. Support does not remove the need to sequence, and the business that is straining is exactly the business that can least afford to be spread thin. Established businesses have a different relationship with support, and often a worse one, because they are the least likely to look. Things work, the routines are set, the business runs, and there is no crisis pushing you to search for anything. But the questions at this stage are real ones. Is what we do still what the market wants? Are our ways of working still competitive or merely familiar? Where has efficiency quietly leaked away over the years? What would we have to change to still be relevant in 5 years? Support aimed at established businesses tends to be about exactly this: modernizing, improving productivity, upgrading capability, opening new directions. And the reason it exists is that mature businesses are worth keeping strong. The advantage you have here is resources and evidence. You know your numbers and you can plan properly. The disadvantage is that nothing is forcing you, so you have to bring the urgency yourself. Miffen Ocean tipipipan self, Vinken tipi som mifon by. A business that has been fine for a long time can mistake stability for safety, and the drift is invisible until it is not. So the useful habit is to make a periodic review deliberate rather than waiting for a problem, to schedule the question of what is quietly getting worse. The second trap is the opposite, changing things because change is available. Doing a modernization project because support exists rather than because anything is actually wrong. That is the same tail wagging the same dog as anywhere else, and being established does not protect you from it. The third is assuming that support is really for younger businesses and not for you, which is a belief that costs established owners a great deal because it stops them looking at all. None of these are solved by knowing a scheme name. They are solved by looking honestly and looking regularly. Stages are not about age, it is worth saying plainly, because owners try to place themselves by the calendar. Stage is not how long you have existed. A 10-year-old business can be starting if it is launching into something genuinely new and unproven. A young business can be firmly growing if it found its market quickly and is straining to keep up. A business can mature in one part and be starting in another, running an established core while testing something unfamiliar alongside it. So do not ask how old are we, ask what is limiting us right now, and be prepared for the answer to differ between the parts of your business. If you are working on something new, judge it as a new thing, whatever the age of the company doing it, because the stage belongs to the project and the problem, not to the letterhead. Find your bottleneck first. Everything in this video collapses into one practical instruction. Before you go looking at any support at all, write down the single thing that is most limiting your business right now, in one sentence, in your own words. Not a wish list, the one constraint, the thing that if it moved would change the most. That sentence is more valuable than any list of schemes, because it converts browsing into searching. With it, you can look at the landscape and immediately tell whether something addresses your actual problem or merely sounds appealing, and you become almost immune to being sold a solution to a problem you do not have. Without it, everything looks slightly relevant and nothing is clearly right. Owners who can say what limits them decide quickly, and owners who cannot end up busy instead of better. How to use this when you search? So take the lens to the source. Go to gobusiness.gov.sg with your stage and your bottleneck in hand, and use them to filter what you read, rather than trying to absorb everything. Look at what is offered to businesses in your position. Read the guidance for anything that speaks to your constraint, and confirm on the official source whether it actually applies to you, because we have deliberately given you no criteria and no scheme names for the good reason that they change. Revisit periodically, because both the landscape and your stage will move. And when something looks like a fit, judge it as a project on its own merits before the funding enters the picture. A closing thought. So here is the lens to carry away. Stop asking what grants are available and start by asking where your business actually is. If you are starting, the limiting problem is proof, and the danger is building for a scale you have not earned. If you are growing, the limiting problem is capacity, and the danger is scaling a mess or doing everything at once. If you are maturing, the limiting problem is relevance and efficiency, and the danger is comfort and never looking. Stage is about your constraint, not your age. Find your bottleneck, write it in one sentence, and let it filter the landscape for you. Remember that everything here is general and educational. We are not a government agency, and we are not affiliated with or endorsed by anyone, and we have deliberately named no schemes because they change. So take your stage and your sentence to gobusiness.gov.sg and see what actually exists for you today. If this gave you a better place to start, subscribe for more plain English Singapore grant explainers, and we will keep making the landscape navigable, one lens at a time.